Many of us have evergreens in our garden, and it might be something like the common Virginia cedar, or also known as juniper. But there are other evergreens. We might have Leyland cypress, we might have dwarf Alberta spruce, and it appears in some of our gardens year after year, we start seeing parts of our shrubs or evergreens losing needles. And if we look a little closer, we will see, in many cases, these little hanging bags. Usually these bags become evident in June, or at least the new crop of bags that we see. And really these bags are made up of silk, and then in addition to that, they're made up of part of the evergreens, and caterpillars are inside these. So really it's a protective coating to the caterpillars. So if you look carefully in June and even in July, these may move and you'll see a little head of a caterpillar sticking out of the top of each of these bags. And what happens is, for about 2 months, they feed on our plants. They take the needles off. In some cases, if you have lots of bags, your evergreens can look awful. And then they produce a pupa, pretty much like a caterpillar that monarch butterflies produce. They produce a pupa. And then, end of probably September, beginning of October, they hatch out. Now, the white ones that you see here are old bags from the year before. And if you look at this, we probably have about 20, but you know, from the year before. And this year, there looks to be about 40 or 50, so it gets worse every year. The male moth flies out of the bag and then goes and fertilizes the female moth, which always stays in the bag. So some of these bags will have egg cases that will produce next year's caterpillars. And what happens is the eggs hatch out and the little caterpillars come out the top of this little bag, and the wind floats them away, or they travel to other parts of the plant, something that's very close to them. An environmentally friendly way to get rid of these is to pick them off. But it's not recommended that you pull them off. If you pull them off, I stripped all the needles off that branch. You're better off taking a scissors and not even a shear. Shears don't work well. So you take your scissors and you come in here and you just snip the bag. And you discard them and throw them away. Now sometimes I like to use a razor very carefully, and you just come in and you remove them. Now you got to remember, this silk is really strong. It's really tough. Here's an example of where 7 caterpillars hatched out and stayed pretty close and fed on this juniper. Now if we look at these bags closely, I have opened some up already just to give you an idea of these have not hatched out into moths, but if you look carefully, you're going to see some movement because they're alive, and they're going to probably hatch out over the next month or so. You see them moving there? If you touch them. And here's an old bag, just to give you an example of the eggs that are inside. But the eggs, old eggs, never hatched out. But just to show you how tough these bags are, if you take a razor very carefully, they're extremely tough. That's why silk is so tough. And if we open this bag up, there is another pupa that is not hatched yet. But just by going out, removing these bags from your evergreens goes a long way in becoming environmentally friendly. and it definitely helps in reducing sprays that you might have to apply next year. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.